Welcome to this episode of Pipeline Things, where we talk about a hot topic, which is geohazards and how Geoforce, if you haven't heard of Geoforce, not use the Geoforce, but Geoforce, the Esri development by TC Energy, is being used to impact their geohazard program. This is a great episode. We appreciate Clay Johnson for joining us and hope you enjoy it. All right, welcome to today's edition of Pipeline Things. I am your host, Rhett Dotson, my co-host, Christopher DeLeon, while we continue this special kind of edition, mini-series, holiday series. I don't know what we want to call it yet. You know, speaking of the fact that it is the holidays, got to warn the audience that there is a decent chance that I may break into random song as your host. Don't judge. But no, super excited. We kind of did this one-off series where we've been bringing on various guests. So we've had Jed Ludlow to talk about circumferential SCC. And we're going to have our guest here today talking about another hot topic, which is geohazards. And, you know, in full light, Christopher, of where this episode's likely to go and the audience, I'm always amazed at the progression of technology in terms of what we use, and even in our personal lives, right? So I had two episodes. For those of you who are out there, and this actually fits, right? If you haven't signed up for the Clarion Geohazards course, you'll notice we did some interesting promotional videos. And
interesting is a way to describe it.
Interesting is the only way to describe it. But Fuse did those for us. And so the one video, right, where we did the skit with Alex and I, and Alex answers the phone. Oh, yeah. Alex picks up the phone. And he's like, I'm going to put you on hold, please. And he puts the hold button, and he goes, brrr. I was like, that's not a hold button. That's a line dead sound. And then I realized that the team from FORME Marketing is too young to recognize that that's a line dead sound, not a hold sound for the phone, because nobody uses. When's the last time you picked up a phone and heard bzzz, that it was dead?
It's been a really long time,
right?
If you do it at a hotel, like let's say you're calling front desk, they have like music now or something like elevator music.
Dude, the other day I was with my parents. We traveled somewhere, and my dad called me on the room phone. And my room phone rings, and I'm like, holy, that's a landline. I don't know the last time I've talked on a phone on a landline. Okay, so I picked it up, and I'm like, hello? Yeah. And he's like, Rhett. And I'm like, Dad, did you call me on the hotel phone? Like, you actually dialed?
He's like, to use this thing?
He's like, why wouldn't I?
Full transparency. So over Thanksgiving, we were down in South Padre for Amanda's family reunion. And so we're in a hotel. There's tons of family there. And we needed a break, so Amanda went and did something. I have all the kids in the room. We had connecting rooms, so where the door's in the middle of the wall, and you can like.
They still have those?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
That was a whole nother effort to get that, but we did. So all the kids are in one room, Amanda and I and the baby are in another, and I hear them talking in a way that was a little bit suspicious. If you have kids, you know what we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
So I open the door and I go over there. They're dialing people and they're talking to people on the phone. They're like, and they start saying their cousin's name. They're like, is this Lena? No. Is this Isla? Can we talk to Isla? And there's random people on the other end because they figure out you can just punch a couple numbers and it'll start ringing.
Like the stuff we did in high school whenever we used to go.
Dude, it was brilliant. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh. Today's episode is a lot like that because, you know, one of the things you would have come up in the same era as me.
Oh, of course I did.
I remember when you used to want to know to go somewhere, you would go to, what was it, MapQuest?
Oh, there's several.
I can't remember. You used to go to a website, right? And you would punch in your starting address, and then you would print out the instructions.
Yep.
And you'd have
a map view, and then it had all the turns.
Yes.
It was brilliant. Yeah.
And you print it out in the car beside you, right?
So I'll be honest with you. I got to a couple of right-of-ways like that. Like, I would legitimately print them when I was out on one of the systems, maybe near Lewisburg or something like that. And I was like, okay, how am I going to get here?
Yeah, so but then some of the roads would be labeled wrong, or you'd have issues. And it's so funny to see how that transitioned into what we have on our phones now, which is like second nature to everyone, right? And it's just that whole, like, really what Google Maps, let's just say that, Google Earth, all of that has kind of transformed our life in terms of the ability to navigate. But you look at that progression and you think Man, it's just amazing. What will our
And
kids
it's
be
not
like?
just navigation, right? I mean, it's all kinds of things. It's making information available to you, what I'll call in proximity. You know, it's like, when was the last time that you and I went to a restaurant because we wanted to go there without knowing it, right? I pull up Google Maps and
Right.
I'm like, the restaurant's near me, and it has everything for you.
Yep. So today, audience, that segue has intent, because geohazards have relied upon all of that technology we talked about, maybe minus landlines.
And you guys are welcome to prank call our guest if you can get his number.
You
Maybe
are
we'll publish it.
totally supposed to do that. So I'm going to bring on our guest. Our guest is Mr. Clay Johnson from TC Energy. And so is he joined us? Is he live now? Oh, so audience can see him on the screen.
Welcome.
Clay, welcome.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here, and looking forward to some singing and Christmas carols, maybe. And
Do you have a favorite one? Do you want to join me right now?
ooh,
Do you want to do like
requests.
la 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 la? Too much.
I'm not gonna
Honest-
sing.
You're not?
You
Clay,
got the
I
voice,
think you
so-
would have a great voice, man. You feel like you got that
you
voice
would-
that's like made for
You would
radio.
be wrong.
Well,
I'm surprised you went classic and you didn't go with like Mariah Carey or something like that. You
Chris,
know, like the
'cause you
holiday
know
tunes.
all I want
you know,
for
the
Christmas is
playlist?
you.
Yeah. You know, it's like in our house, it's all
he
about
went,
Alexa.
he went
It's
right
like,
past that. He didn't even make eye contact with producer when I said that. Clay, are you regretting your decision to join us yet? Or do you think that will come later in the episode?
Not yet. Yeah, it's still a little early, so we'll see how it goes. Really.
Will you please?
It's kind
Will
of
you
like
please?
unwrapping a Christmas gift. I mean, this is the holiday season, right? It's
True
kind of like, am I
story.
going to like this? I'm not sure if I want. You shake the box a little bit, you start peeling the
Ooh,
wrapping.
Yeah, I did bring my Santa hat for the holidays, so there we go. We're ready. All right.
That is so awesome.
Clay, and don't take it off now. No, it's safe
Oh
for the
no!
rest of the episode.
Oh no!
Oh, bring in.
This is a hand knitted hat. I just my mom came in yesterday, and so she came out with a hand knitted Christmas hat. I gotta wear it.
Is mom in that house?
She is, yeah.
Oh,
So
She's still sleeping probably.
Gosh, darn it. All right, so audience, you have to Christmas cheer, sponsored and brought to you by D2 Integrity and TC Energy today with Clay Johnson. So, Clay, introduce yourself to the audience, please, in full Christmas regalia.
Will do. Yeah. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. Clay Johnson. I'm a licensed geologist. Been with TC Energy for 4.5 years now. I started out in my career in geotechnical consulting on the West Coast, so in Seattle, working for a consulting firm formerly known as Golder, which has now been acquired by WSP. So a lot of the work that I did in Seattle was actually out east. So either looking at geohazards, mostly landslides, fault rupture, sinkholes, specific to pipelines. So that was a lot of work, either remote out in the eastern U.S. in Appalachia or coming out to do field work. And so I worked for Golder for 7 years, and then opportunity came up to work in TC and kind of jumped on that and made the move out to, I'm actually in Pittsburgh now. So it's been good. And most of the work with TC Energy has been on the database development for our geohazard threat database. So.
Oh, and we are absolutely going to get into that. So, audience, if you're not familiar with the reason we have Clay on is if you've been at an ESRI conference or you've been to IPC, you should have heard. If you didn't, that was a shortcoming on your part. But you should have heard Clay speak about the Geoforce tool that they've developed at TC. So that's why we're going to bring him on. But we always like to ask our guests, Clay, when you were a young child, was your dream that you would find yourself in as a geologist for pipelines? Is that how your entrance was into the pipeline industry?
Yeah, like your friends were with fire trucks and police,
And you played with a
cowboys
pipeline?
and Indians, and you were playing with rocks,
Yeah.
and you're like, I want to put some pipelines through here.
No, actually, I kind of hated rocks as a kid. And, maybe that, I don't know, I guess I had no idea, even coming into consulting. This is a very specific world of,
Right.
You don't really hear about it. And it's been infinitely fascinating getting involved in pipeline geohazards. And I'd say I always had a natural curiosity of science and in the earth. And kind of it's evolved and more curiosities have showed up. So it's
But how did
still
pipelines-
surprising me.
How pipelines?
How pipelines. So I started out in University of Washington studying earth science, and as part of my both undergrad and grad, as part of my grad program, I needed to do an internship to satisfy the requirements and present a project on that, which I got paired up with Golder and
Gotcha.
completed my internship project looking at subsidence related, the surface morphology, mostly from remote sensing that you would get from sinkholes, underground mining subsidence, and a variety of things that manifest there. So
When you had no
That
idea
started
how
the-
significant.
Yeah.
that would be.
Internships will do it. That's how I got in here.
yeah,
HR recruiter jumping in front of you saying you need an internship in pipelines. Do
Yeah, yeah.
Life-changing moments.
I? Yeah.
It's worked out quite well with I think John De La Chapelle, a mentor of mine, and so he was really the one. He came in and gave a presentation at the university, and I followed up and just was interested in what he was doing, and he gave a call a few weeks later, like, "Hey, let's see what that guy wants to do."
So let's jump into it. Geoforce. I would like you to tell me, because when you came on, before you came on, Geoforce was not a thing at TC Energy, right?
What
No,
is
it-
Geoforce?
Yeah, what is?
I
maybe
mean, is
start
that
there.
a load acting on the pipeline? What is Geoforce?
Set the
Well,
stage. What we need is the origin story here.
It's a clothing brand now, so we got.
You have to
shout out-
explain.
Yeah, shout out to Emma for the excellent swag. She really showed up for us this year. So the whole team received these. I guess they're holiday flannels anyway. So yeah, in kind of where we were at, what we started in TC was when I showed up, we had a geohazard program that was largely managed in a Excel spreadsheet and corresponding KMZs in Google Earth. So there was a little bit of a disconnect, is like the spatial data with the tabular information, as well as the records. So photos, site assessment forms, that sort of thing.
All of that
So-
was in spreadsheet.
It was in a spreadsheet or file folders that were, you'd have to kind of jump around a little bit. And the
Yeah.
intent and purpose of Geoforce, that's kind of the analogy as a steal from another person at an Esri conference gave, is a phone book. So a phone book is where we were. It was very useful to have a list. Excel spreadsheets, we still leverage them to very helpful for sorting. You can run some functions on there to find information you're looking for, but there's a disconnect for that spatial end. And what we want is that example you gave early on with Google Maps. You can pull your phone out, you can search for something, it shows up. You can see the photos, the reviews for it. There's a lot of information, phone numbers, addresses, all that's included. So you can see where you're at in the world. You can search for things. We want the same sort of level of understanding for our geohazards. We want to see, is there things nearby that may also be impacting or contributing to this? So Geoforce is, in a nutshell, it's a suite of Esri products that we have customized specific to our geohazard threat management. So we have web applications. Our data is hosted on a variety of servers that we are using to visualize in this spatial data explorer. We have that same information can be, like, say, open in Esri desktop applications. We can see it on our phones in the field when we collect data or conduct field reconnaissance. And it's across the board, so anybody on the team can see that information.
So give me an example, because obviously we don't have a visual here. You have to talk to the listeners. Describe to me what Geoforce does or looks like, right? So how are you using this on a day-to-day basis?
So we have a lot of information that we're including in that database. So individual threats, landslides, delineated boundaries for those. We have exposed pipe locations, potential subsidence areas. So that all that information is, say, housed in a manner that we can see it visually as we scroll around, just like you would in Google Earth. but we're also including a lot of accessory information. So our pipelines with the attributes that are up to date and current. And that all that information is actually tied to our threats. So we can query that and look at, which lines are most critical lines. What are the geohazards associated with those? We can use that to look at, field reconnaissance. Where do we want to focus our efforts to minimize our risk overall? We have LiDAR data is another big one. We have I think we're around 10 terabytes of LiDAR data, which is not a small amount when you try to host that in a live manner that you can, pull up and reference readily. So we have it. We have our pipeline corridors at about 1,000-foot width for most of it, a lot in the eastern U.S., where it's slope model. So you're seeing steeper slopes and darker shades. Effectively, it's a bare earth model that we can use to see suspect morphology, mostly for landslides, but it's quite helpful for sinkholes and subsidence features as well.
So is Geoforce, you're bringing, what I'm hearing from you is you're taking data from all of these sources and bringing it together geospatially, right? Aligned with your system of record.
Yeah, that's correct. That's the idea. So same with ILI data. We can see that where features pop up for bending strain. We can then reference that for coincident geohazards, review that. And that's another big portion of this is, being able to see what, former assessments were. And
so
kind of
aside from being really cool, fa la la la, I just wanted to break into random song again. Aside from being really cool and visually speaking, Clay, how does it impact you day to day, right? So like, is it that you get something from the field and they call and then you consult Geoforce first? Are you getting a bending strain feature and then you consult Geoforce? Do you start top down from all of the information from Geohorse and try and integrate it to impact maybe your risk or prioritization scheme? All of the above? I kind of want to get
all
to
of the above.
All of the above. So,
I mean, maybe I'd like to ask you from a different vantage point, right? So I always like to think of things, a lot of times you're prescribed to do something here in the U.S. when it relates to integrity of pipe, independent of the threat. So often we want to go to code and say, code says this, we need to do it. There's multiple places. Like if you look at 1163 management of ILI system, it says you will maintain a database of features for reference and integration, right? And so it's like, okay, well, how are operators creating a database of ILI features to manage them? This rings a bell. This is a great way to say, hey, all my bending strain features are in a database, and here's my database, and here I'm integrating stuff. When you look at, different integrity requirements, if we focus on gas, subpart O, it says, hey, you have to do, for threat identification, you have to do data integration. It sounds like all of that. That's my commentary, so I'll get it to a question.
Sure.
Back to the inception of it. I bet it wasn't you guys looked at code and said, hey guys, we need a database to comply with our data integration and ILI requirements, right? I think it was more around, is it risk? Are y'all performing risk assessments in this? Are y'all using it as to, hey, we've already identified the threat, we need to do some kind of assessment, i.e. pass fail? Is it we had a business objective to monitor these things? Maybe you could take us down that process. How'd you guys get here?
Yeah, so the start of this, I'd say Geoforce, we need to maintain as you mentioned, inventory and be able to manage our geohazards. We need to have a program in place for that from a regulatory standpoint. How you do that is sort of up in the air. We were looking for a more efficient way to do that, but this project initially started as a IS initiative to get at predictive analytics for geohazards. So can we understand where we are going to have issues in the future? And we don't have crystal balls. It's a very difficult
that
thing
is a
to
massive goal, man. I mean, that's
it's a big one. But I think there are things that we can do, and I think we're in a much better position now to support that end of work. There's some advances, I think, depending upon what you're trying to predict, particularly for landslide science. We can be a bit more proactive, hopefully, here in the future, looking at weather patterns. There's a lot of research initiatives going on currently specific to pipelines and geohazards. So that's kind of where it started. And looking for the predictive side. And we said, well, if you're going to do that, you need to have your data in one spot that's easily leveraged. And an Excel table is probably not the best way to do that.
But you can make it into a pivot table.
You could. Oh, I'm a big fan.
But I'll kind of jump to a little bit. I mean, I think it's pretty interesting that you guys leveraged different Esri products as your stack for this, right? Because you've got a lot of tech companies. Esri's a lot more than pipelines, right? I mean, they're massive, and so I could totally see how you can architect this to where you could leverage different plugins or different tools where it's using things like AI or different rendering algorithms, either spatially or numerically. And it just, whether you're there or not, you're definitely in the platform or the tech stack to where you're going to be able to move in that direction.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very attractive with Esri. I mean, they sort of rule the roost in geospatial data management, not just for pipelines, but across the board. A lot of look back at COVID in the early days where they were, actually this is in Washington State, they're spinning up dashboards showing the spatial distribution of
we
everything.
were messing with those, if you remember.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Try to forget it. Really
Too
good.
soon to bring it back up. Huh? So.
No, it's not. It feels like an age ago, but it really wasn't.
It feels like the snap a little bit.
Do you want to sing a carol now? Is it the right time?
Clay Johnson. That's the Silver Bells. I don't know if you could tell. All right, Clay, we're going to take a short break. Audience, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, I want to touch base with Clay on what are some of the benefits they're actually seeing, tangible benefits. Because I think for a lot of the audience out there, maybe you're sitting at a spreadsheet management and trying to figure out what it takes to jump to that next level. We want to talk both about some of the hurdles there as well as what are the benefits you can expect. And on that note, we'll be right back.
It's a holly jolly Christmas.
It's the best time of the year. I don't know the words after that. All right, welcome back to this continuing mini-series, which has turned into a random holiday episode, which you will all probably hear well after the holidays.
You never know what you're going to get on Pipeline Things. That's the
Hopefully
best
it
part
brings warm smiles to your face in this January cold season, which is probably when this will air. So as we come back, Clay, we're with our guest, Clay Johnson. And before we get too deep into the episode, Clay, you've listened to all of our prior episodes, right? Yep, so that means you know exactly what's coming. Yep. So there's a benefit.
Hey, we
if
have
the
a new
guest has.
website. Like all of these podcasts are searchable now. Like you can hit keywords like hard spots or EMAT, and like all the episodes come up. Guests,
I've listened
whatever.
to Jing's. I was very impressed with Jing's podcast. I learned a lot.
Dude,
It's good.
Jing's was fan. Dude, the analogies were
I don't
so
know if
real.
I
Like
did this with
skincare and like it was.
I think
awesome.
this was after lightning round. Clay, you can't 5 seconds max. Okay, all right. You got to answer these questions about geohazard integrity management. All right, putting you on the spot. Chance TC could edit it, but probably not. All right, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Apple or Google?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, he's delaying.
Mm-hmm.
Apple or Android?
Oh, Apple.
Weak sauce. Disc golf or ball golf?
Glow.
Glow. Oh, he's talking about disc golf then. That's what he's saying, right? All right. Batman or Superman?
Superman.
You
DC.
were on a
come
roll.
on.
You were on a roll.
100%. This is targeted at some individuals we know. Alaska or California?
Alaska.
The Mariners or the Pirates?
Ooh, tough one. Mariners.
Cool. I was wondering which way you would go. And I don't know if you're going to know this one. So this is just bonus round. Goku or Vegeta?
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Say that again.
Goku or Vegeta?
Hmm.
Do you know the reference?
Pass.
Pass. He
It's
doesn't
all right.
know the reference.
Yeah,
it's okay.
It's okay.
You
was a wild card.
Yeah, he knew 5 of the references. That's pretty good. I mean, I'll forgive you that you're an Apple person. We'll just
No,
let
you're
Are we
that
talking
go.
Major League Pitchers? Is that what we're doing?
No, Apple's the way to go. Don't listen to this guy.
All right. So catching the audience up, we are here talking with Clay Johnson. about the development of Geoforce and the use of it at TC Energy. So we set the stage in the first half, talking about the need and the driver, right? That you're integrating from just having the phone book, if you will, an Excel database. And I know a lot of our clients still sit at an Excel database for the management of geohazards, right? Moving from that into a geospatial ability to integrate all of your data, whether it's LiDAR, whether it's inclinometer data, whether or not it's the pipe center line, whether it's your reports, whether it's your bending strain, whether it's your previous ILI features, to be able to bring all of that into one space where visually you can see the arrangement of those things. And that's on top of all of the other Esri packages that are built in.
And that's the idea, right? And
Yep.
strategically trying to leverage that GIS Esri relationship, right? Often your GIS teams are already using those tools. There's a whole network there. You're not trying to build it bespoke in-house. You're really leveraging something that should work.
What I want to talk about now, Clay, is kind of three topics, right? I want to talk about the resources involved in do this. Like, what does an operator need to be prepared to bite off if they're going to tackle this? And if they're going to do that, then I want to talk about what the tangible benefits are, right? So, like, I really want to hear, like, how does this actually make the business case for me? I mean, obviously, your organization's invested a lot of resources, right? And then third, we'll talk about where it's going next. So, audience, that's the Cliff's Notes. Let's start with the beginning, Clay. I mean, obviously, you've been at UTC. You said 5 years. So, what kind of resources? I mean, if an operator just heard this episode and said tomorrow that, you know what, I want to build the next Geoforce, what are they looking at?
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends on what you're hoping to get in the end. So for us, we went a very, I'd say, complicated route for good reason. We actually outsourced GIS support with a third party to, didn't have the manpower, if you will, in TC to dedicate to this. But others we've seen in industry do a similar, like say a scaled down version of Geoforce. So web application, Esri web applications, very simple to spin up. I mean, you could get one in a day that has points and features. So you can have a simplified version pretty quickly. When you start to do analytics and try to get data tied to other systems within our organization, which is the route we went, it gets a bit more complicated. You're doing, you got scripts in the back, behind the curtain running to accommodate things. Like, for example, for us, we want to make sure our pipeline attributes are in sync with our geohazards and our threats similarly. So we're tying that, we're running a script to make sure, percent smice, diameter, personnel, so that our area managers, everything is current in the system. And that refreshes using kind of on-demand planned process. So you can do this in a very simplified way pretty easily. But yeah, I think for scaling it up and getting more on the analytical side, like another example, we have seismic threats that our team and our following our procedures is required to follow up on. And so we have an event server when a seismic event occurs over a given magnitude and within a given proximity to our line, we'll get an alert and we will follow up accordingly following our procedures. So we'll get an email, text message, event alert. So that's been pretty, and it's meaningful. So we know what the level of response should be for that site.
So it sounds like, again, once you define the objective of what you want to go after, then it guides a little more of what type of resource. And if you want to go the analytics, whether predictive or not, right, even just trying to develop relationships, potentially cause and effect, you're looking at sizable investment. If you just want to geospatially view things, it sounds like that's a little bit easier to integrate into Esri's products.
I would say so. And the other challenge for us is scalability. We have thousands of miles, tens of thousands of miles of pipelines in North America. Right now, Geoforce is set up specific to the U.S. We are looking at integrating into Canadian side now. Our WAF team sort of morphed a little bit. We're now integrated with our Canadian colleagues. So that's kind of a future enhancement here, but it's just by quantity. it becomes unruly to manage all that in an Excel spreadsheet, especially out east where we have high density of things to pay attention to.
Yeah, fantastic. So day to day then, what are the benefits that you're seeing, tangible benefits that you see from something like this? I mean, how is it actually changing or altering or improving the way that you're working?
Yeah, I'd say on a day-to-day basis, better visualization and understanding of what's in front of us. And so it expedites our ability to assess threats. We can look at that LiDAR data, understand history at a site. If it's been visited before, but this is something new, it's going to maybe set our level of effort slightly different. There's a lot of different things that we can leverage in Geoforce. So we can actually pull agency specific data, anything that's in Esri's web service, and can be added in. So ArcGIS Online, that data can be visualized overlapping with our threats. So we do that with hurricanes, precipitation. We have, I think, day-to-day wise, entering new threat locations, prior to being confirmed, or if they are confirmed, we have a form set up so the data integrity and consistency among that is set. We set domain values, so you only have these options to pick from. We can adjust that and add new ones, but everybody's entered the data the same way. When I go to search for something, it's not in a different capitalization. It's consistent. So that's important when you want to start to manage a large network of features and issues.
Excellent.
Talk to us a little about timing. So you said, like, for example, let's say there's hurricane maps or precipitation time frame. Are we talking hours, days, weeks for you to be able to ingest data and then start analyzing it?
Click of a button. So if you want to see the precipitation, the forecast data, we can.
That's fantastic.
Add that in, and it's right there. It's overlaid. So whatever available in the public sphere through Esri's web service, we can pull that in.
That's fantastic, right? It makes me think of, remember how they say, when you have extreme weather events, you must respond within 72 hours. I mean, it's such a fantastic way to be proactive about. I mean, you said it, right? You said predictive, right? And obviously us always leaning into integrity and obviously that fine line between, prescribed and performance-based. I mean, it sounds like you guys are positioning yourselves in a way to really be able to get a little bit more predictive, right? Like, we know this is coming. We know we have active sites here. Yeah. And once we have the data available, you can pretty quickly render something and then coordinate with, like you said earlier, your field personnel. You already have names of people you can reach out to, send them an email and say, hey, just be aware of this. When you guys put boots on the ground, this is what we're looking for.
Yeah. I mean, one thing to add there, on kind of the predictive side, I think we're in a much better spot leveraging. So we have our event server and we track precipitation. So both forecasts, so the weatherman can be wrong quite a bit of the time. Great position to be in.
According to Justin Healy, always 10 days out, big weather is trying to influence what you think. Yeah. It's a whole, if you ever want to get in a conversation with him.
It's pretty helpful to look at that and say, okay, I'm going to Southern West Virginia to a site visit and we're going to get 3 inches of rain in the next 2 days. Right. I better bring my rain gear versus the cumulative precipitation data, which is getting better and better resolution. We're inventorying that and keeping track of that.
That's cool.
When we have events. And so we can go back and look at that information and say, we got a pretty wet year in this area. Maybe we want to consider collecting additional LiDAR. Maybe we want to bump up monitoring schedules. We have that to be able to make decisions dynamically. So I think moving forward, because we are inventorying that information, we can say when the science catches up to a more predictive end of understanding, we can readily get at that information.
So I thought of an analogy. You got the Christmas hat on. Santa came down the chimney and left you and your siblings and loved ones gifts, and you open yours first, and it's Geoforce, and it does all these cool things, and your brothers and sisters and mom and dad are looking like, oh, I wonder what's in my box. So it makes me wonder, like, are other threat leads like, hey, woohoo, like, I want a Geoforce for my threat. What kind of precedence is this setting just generally that you can speak to within y'all's enterprise?
Yeah, I think there's internally there's a lot of interest among other groups to, we've been approached like spinning up different web applications to support their day to day. And I think there's been some headway for some folks on that. Also leveraging our data and using that to support, so like our system-wide risk folks, that's an enhancement we're moving toward, is keeping that connection live between our threat information and what they're using for, let's say, more probabilistic risk assessments.
Yeah, I keep getting into that, right? I mean, I'm really in favor of the, like y'all's tech stack there, right? Because I mean, it gives you, if you guys are doing, like you said earlier, I think more qualitative at the moment, more data integration, more visual, you know, the numerical side is, you know, just a couple steps away. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and we are doing that as an organization, and there's a lot of really smart individuals that are involved with that. But it's sort of, we're providing that data out on demand versus getting that a live connection in a schema and format that makes sense. So there's more to come with that, but I think some definite improvements to how we view risk overall as an organization, leveraging that information from Geoforce.
All I could think about was up on the rooftop, reindeer paws. Out jumps good old Santa Claus with his bag of Geoforce goodies for all to share. I don't think that's actually how the words go, but
I was thinking about, you know, who's the Krampus in that in this project.
Oh my goodness, Clay. I've got one last question for you, buddy. This has been good fun. I think the entire WAF team is going to be jealous that you were here with us today. But where do you see this going? What's next for Geoforce? So obviously this is somewhat mature within TC, right? You've got an established process. I have personally seen you guys use that, working closely with you. But what's next? Where do you see it going in the next 1, 2, 5 years? What do you hope to get out of it?
Yeah, I think we have pretty much one more year with our vendor. There will likely be some level of support, say, making sure that the car still runs. We're transitioning to in-house support. So passing the reins over to our internal GIS team is going to happen this next year. I mean, it already has, and they have been involved throughout the project, and we rely on them heavily.
So now you're going to wholly own it.
That's right. And it's in a format that we can do that. So enhancement wise, so we very recently, as of last week, have moved into a new format for Geoforce. So it's in 11.1, Esri's Pro version 11.1. We were previously in 10.8. So this is just like Windows has a new version come out. We upgrade. So we're in a, I'd say, better position. There's a lot of enhancements that come with moving to 11.1 that we're going to try to employ this next year. So excited. It's nice to be in this arena with Esri so we can kind of evolve with them as new things come up. And it just keeps getting better and better.
Cool. Well, I hope this show was everything you thought it would be, and this experience lived up to your expectations. If it didn't, you can file all your complaints to Ms. Producer. But no, Clay, I want to thank you for joining us and for giving us a little bit of your time. I look forward to seeing the continued improvements that you make and working with you guys. I want to thank you for sharing a little bit with our audience and other listeners out there. And we hope to have you back on. So to our audience, we hope you enjoyed this kind of mini-series. Look forward to bringing you our next series. And again, we'll be back with you soon. Thanks for joining us on Pipeline Things. I am your host, Rhett Dawson, your co-host, Christopher DeLeon, and our esteemed guest, Clay Johnson, signing off.
Appreciate it. Happy holidays, guys.
This year, I asked my wife what she wanted for Christmas, and she said nothing would make her happier than being with me.
That's it.
So
man.
I got her nothing for Christmas. This episode was brought to you by D2 Integrity, Clay Johnson from TC Energy. We wish to thank for being our guest, Miss Sarah Etier, executive producer from FORME Marketing, and this episode was filmed at the Work Lodge.